let's open our menu, and whenever we hover over the button will get larger and the text is going to change color. And we can also press down for this little jump, and then it'll go back into place. So with that said, let's begin. For this video, we are going to need two sound effects, one for hovering over the button and one for clicking on it. So let's go to the content drawer, and I have made a sound effects folder. Let's open that, and we have the two sound effects, and they sound like this. So with that, let's go back. Let's right click to create a new folder called UI. And inside, we want to right click and do user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, and let's call it WB_button or custom button, whatever you like. Let's save it and let's open it. In here, we want to search for a button. Let's drag that in here. And next, we want to grab a text. So let's drag that on top of our button. Click on your button and set the name to something you'll remember. So button works for me. The background color I'll change to be slightly darker, something like that. Hit OK. Now for the text, it's important that we make it as a variable. This will allow us to edit it in the event graph. For the name, let's do txt_text. Now once you're happy, you can compile and save and open up the event graph. Inside here, we want to create some functions. So let's hit the plus button and do set text color as the name, and grab our text onto the graph and do set color and opacity. Now with that blue pin here, we want to do a make slate color. Drag this blue pin into your function to create an input and connect your execution pin, make it pretty, and compile and save. For our next function, we'll go ahead and call this set text settings. Now in here, we'll go ahead, grab our text again and do set text, the very last one. Drag your text pin into the function to create an input again and compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create a function called update button status. And in here, we want to drag our set text color, drag from the blue pin, do a select color, and your pick a boolean you want to drag to your function to create an input. Now click on the function and we can change its name to isActive. And if it's active, meaning a true, so we'll make it like a yellowish color, something like that works, hit OK. And if it's false, let's make it like a grayish white color, and this will be the default color for our button. Connect your execution pin, and at the very end, drag isActive, promote to variable. isActive works, let's just delete the space and connect it. Make it pretty and compile and save. On the event graph, let's get rid of event construct and event tick. On pre-construct, we'll do set text settings and then do update button status. For isActive, drag your boolean, get and connect it. Now in text, we want to promote it to a variable. Let's just say text. Now we want these to be editable per button, so we need to make sure that they're instance editable. So let's do that for both. isActive just to see how the color is going to look like. And for text, we want to give it a default text. So first compile and then say text, for example. Let's compile and save. Next, we want to go ahead and open up the designer, and in here, go all the way to the top to window and do animations. Now for the animations, we will create two. Click on your button, hit plus on the animation, and let's call it resize. Click on resize, hit the plus, select button, hit plus again to select an option, and we want transform. And specifically, we want the scale. So we'll go from 1 to 1.2. And in the timeline, drag it out to 1.1, works well. And we'll do 1.2 on the X and 1.2 on the Y. And now we can see how that looks. So that's great. Next, let's go ahead and create another one. Click on your button, animation, and do jump. Click on your jump, hit the add button, plus again, and we want transform. And in here, we are interested in the scale, no, the translation this time. So on the timeline, we'll go from 0 to 0.5, and Y we can change from 0 to 3. And we get this little jump that doesn't look so impressive here, but it's going to look better in the actual UI. So once that's done, let's close the animations tab, compile and save, and let's go to the event graph. Inside here, we'll go ahead and do on the button, click on that and do on clicked. And whenever we click a button, we then want some functionality to go along with it in the menu. So for that, on the event dispatchers, create a new one and do on button clicked. And let's call this here. And at the end, we can use one of the sound effects that we have. So play sound 2D. And let's select a button sound effect. So this one works well. Next, let's go ahead and click on our button again. And we want to go on hovered and on unhovered. Let's give ourselves some space. Whenever we hover over the button, we want to update the button status. So set this to be true. And then we want to play an animation. So play animation. And for the animation to play, we go on the left-hand side, animations, drop down, and get resize. Now make sure your play mode is forward, and we can copy that to unhovered. And we need to add one more thing. Update button status, make false. And before we play the animation, which by the way is going to be in reverse, we want to grab a branch. So press B, left mouse, to get a branch. On false, we'll do that. But on true, we want to create a condition that's going to say was pressed. And if was pressed was true, we'll just set it to be false. Now this is going to be set true whenever we press the button. So click on it again and do unpressed and on released. On pressed, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and set this to be true, like so. And then we want to play our jump animation. So let's copy that, change the play mode to be forward, grab your jump, and let's connect it here and do the opposite here, like so. And this will say reverse. Let's bring it there. Just before we go from here, on hovered, we want to add the play sound 2D at the very end. And we want our button 2. And on was pressed, we want this to be set to false at the very start because it's set to true, set it to false. And let's compile and save. Next, we want to design a system to be able to open our menu. Now for that, we need a menu to open. So let's go to the content drawer, UI, right click to create a new widget. And let's call it WB_menu. And let's open up our menu. And in here, we want to get a canvas panel. On top of that, we want a border. And here we can set how big this is going to be. Now, before we do that, go to the right-hand side to anchors. While holding Control and Shift, press the middle one to snap to place. And for size, I'll do 400 by 400. For the brush color, we'll make it black and the opacity 0.6 on the alpha channel and hit OK. Next, we want a vertical box. So let's grab that, drag it to your border, click on it. For the padding, we'll set 0 and we'll set our own thing. Left, we'll do 50 and 50 on the right. And next, we want to grab the button we made. So for me, it's called WB button. That's the one we made. Drag it to your vertical box and copy it a few times. So let's do 4, select all of them to fill. And for the padding, we can do something like 20. And we should name them. So let's do button_play. And we can do that with all the buttons. And we can also change the text. So here we have it, and we'll do quit. We'll do credits. We can also see how it looks like if we press is active, just for the color, not for the size. Here we'll do settings and play. Now to show the event dispatcher in action, let's exit that, compile and save, go to the event graph. Whenever we press a button, so for example, play, we have on button clicked option. And here we can create whatever logic we want, I'll simply do a print string that says hello. That's okay for us. So let's compile and save. And next we want to open up the content drawer, go to content, third person, input, actions, right click, go to input, input action, and let's call it IA underscore toggle menu. Save it, go back a folder to your IMC underscore default. Click on the mappings, hit plus, and select the mapping you created or the input action. And let's select a key of our choice. So I'll go with G. Once happy, save and exit. Next, let's go to our content drawer again, open up the third person folder, blueprints. Let's right click to create a new blueprint class. And we want a player controller. Let's call it BP for blueprint underscore PC player controller underscore main. Now, once created, it's a good idea to assign it straight away so that we don't forget. On the right-hand side, you should see something called a world settings option. Now, if you don't, go to the top to settings and click world settings. And now you should. Here you should see a game mode option. Click on the drop-down and go to player control class and select the default to your own. Once that's done, let's open up our player controller, go to the event graph, and let's create some functions. To be exact, we need 3. The first one being toggle menu, and then 2 more for showing our mouse, so show mouse, and for hiding it, hide mouse. Click on your toggle menu, and here we want to do let's drag from the execution pin and do create widget. Now the widget in question is our WB underscore menu. Drag out, promote variable called WB underscore menu, and we save this reference. Next, we want to add to viewport, which will add it to our screens. And before we do any of this, we want to check if this reference exists. Now, by default, at the start, it shouldn't. And right click to convert to validated get. And if it doesn't exist, we'll create it. So is not valid, create that. But if it does, we'll remove it. So drag from the blue pin and do remove from parent, which will remove it from our display. And we also want to clear this reference. Otherwise, it'll always exist and always resort to going here. So let's drag it and do set as empty. And lastly, we want to show and hide our mouse. So show mouse when we create it and hide mouse when we destroy it. And of course, we need to design the functionality in both of these. So let's start with show mouse. Right click, do a get player controller, and then do a set show mouse cursor. Take this true, so it shows. And then we'll do a set input game and UI, which will allow us to move while the UI is open. Double click, drag down, select both, press Q to align. Let's open the hide mouse function. Right click at player controller. Now this time we want to do a check for is valid, because when we close the game, it's going to say an error because the controller doesn't exist. So to avoid it, we do that. Then we'll do set show mouse cursor as false, so it disappears. And lastly, we want to set the game mode back to game only. So set input mode game only. And we're pretty much done. So let's just compile and save, exit that, exit that. This is set up. So all we got to do is call the toggle menu function. So in the event graph let's get rid of these two actually. Right click, do IA, input action, and whatever you called it. So we called it toggle menu. Click on the dropdown, and on started, we want to call this toggle menu function. So we can either drag it in or search for it. Let's drag it in. And let's see if this works. Compile and save. And when we go to play, when we press G, we should get something like that. And it all works. So this is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, leave a like. And as always, happy developing.